think being good keeps people close. It doesn't. It makes you disposable. Every time you beg for attention, for respect, for someone to see your worth, you're teaching them you're desperate. And desperation has a smell. People detect it before you finish the sentence, before you send the second text, before you apologize for existing. They sense it in your energy, in the way you over-explain, in the way you tolerate disrespect and call it patience. And the moment they smell it, you're done. Not because they're cruel, because you've shown them you'll stay no matter how they treat you. You've made yourself cheap, and cheap things get used until they break, then replaced. Machiavelli said it centuries ago. People only fear losing those who never beg, not those who love harder, not those who sacrifice more, those who can walk away without looking back, those who don't need validation to function, those who've built something internal that can't be shaken by external rejection. That's what creates fear, not affection, not effort. The cold, quiet knowledge that you're fine either way, that losing you costs something, that crossing you has consequences, and consequences are the only language the survival brain understands. This isn't about being cold. It's about being irreplaceable. It's about understanding that power doesn't come from how much you give. It comes from how little you need. The less you need approval, the more control you have. The less you chase, the more they fear losing you. The less you explain yourself, the more respect you command. You stop being someone people manage. You become someone people protect. Not because you demanded it, because you made yourself expensive to lose. Most people will never understand this. They'll keep begging, keep chasing, keep breaking themselves into smaller pieces, trying to fit into spaces that were never built for them. And they'll wonder why no one values them, why loyalty gets punished, why kindness gets exploited. The answer is simple. They never learned that power begins where need ends, that respect follows distance, that fear is born from the possibility of loss, not the guarantee of presence. You're about to learn what they won't. 10 principles that separate people who get used from people who get feared. No inspiration, no comfort, just the truth about how human psychology actually works, how power moves, how respect forms, how fear protects what love never could. Stop waiting for people to see your worth. Make them afraid of losing it. Begging rewrites the power structure in real time. You don't have to say the words out loud. Your energy does it for you. Every text you send twice without a response. Every time you explain yourself when silence would have spoken louder. Every moment you wait by the phone like a prisoner waiting for parole. That's begging. And people can smell it before you even finish the sentence. It doesn't matter if you dress it up as care, concern, or loyalty. Desperation has a frequency, and the human brain is wired to detect it instantly. The moment someone senses you need them more than they need you, the psychology shifts. You become disposable. Here's what happens in the brain when someone begs. Mirror neurons fire up. They reflect your emotional state back at you. If you're anxious, needy, or desperate for approval, their nervous system registers it as weakness. Not because they're cruel, but because survival instincts run deeper than empathy. In evolutionary terms, weakness signals vulnerability. Vulnerability signals risk, and the brain doesn't bond with risk. It distances itself from it. This isn't opinion, it's neuropsychology. The more you chase, the more their brain categorizes you as low value. And once that label sticks, respect dies, fear dies, control dies. Machiavelli understood this without an MRI scan. He knew that power isn't held by those who beg for position, it's held by those who make others afraid to lose them. Fear of loss is the only currency that doesn't inflate. You can beg someone to stay, to care, to see your worth. But the second you do, you've already lost. Because begging hands over the one thing you should never give away, leverage. And without leverage, you're not in a relationship. You're in a hostage situation where you're both the hostage and the one paying the ransom. People don't respect what they can predict. And begging is the most predictable behavior in human psychology. It follows a script: chase, explain, apologize, repeat. Once someone knows you'll always come back, always forgive, always wait, you've given them a manual on how to control you. They don't even have to think about it anymore. It becomes automatic. You become a reflex, not a priority. And reflexes don't require respect. They require convenience. You've turned yourself into background noise, and background noise gets ignored until it stops completely. I've watched this play out in boardrooms, bedrooms, and battlefields of the mind. The person who speaks first loses. The person who needs the outcome more loses. The person who can't walk away loses. Not because the world is fair, but because fairness is a myth we tell children. The real world runs on power dynamics, and power flows toward those who withhold, not those who offer everything up front. Begging is the fastest way to kill mystery, and without mystery, there's no fear. Without fear, there's no respect. Without respect, you're just another face they'll forget the second someone more interesting walks into the room. But here's the part most people never consider. Begging doesn't just destroy how others see you. It rewires how you see yourself. Every time you beg, you're training your brain to believe you're not enough. You're conditioning yourself to accept less. You're programming your nervous system to tolerate disrespect as if it's normal. And over time, that becomes your identity. You stop being someone who demands value. You become someone who negotiates for scraps. And once that shift happens internally, it radiates externally. People treat you exactly how you've taught them to, not how you wish they would, how you've trained them to. The antidote isn't aggression, it's absence. But absence only works when it's rooted in something deeper than strategy. It has to come from a place where you've already accepted the loss, where you're not bluffing, where walking away isn't a tactic. It's a boundary, and boundaries aren't built on hope. They're built on the cold recognition that some people only value what they can't control, and you can't control someone who doesn't need you. That recognition changes everything. Fear doesn't come from obedience, it comes from the possibility of absence. You can submit to someone for years, bend to their will, accommodate their moods, sacrifice your time, and they'll never fear losing you. Not once. Because submission signals infinite availability, and the human brain doesn't protect what it knows will always be there. It protects what might disappear. That's the mechanism. Scarcity triggers loss aversion, and loss aversion triggers fear. Not the fear of pain, the fear of losing access, of losing control, of losing the thing they took for granted until it was gone. This is why loyalty without boundaries is worthless. People don't fear what they own, they fear what they might lose. The moment you become predictable, controllable, and endlessly forgiving, you're no longer a person, you're a resource, and resources don't command respect. They get used until they run out, then replaced. The psychology is simple. The brain calculates value based on effort and risk. If something requires no effort to keep and carries no risk of loss, the brain deprioritizes it. You become furniture, part of the environment, and no one fears their couch leaving. Machiavelli wrote that it's better to be feared than loved, because love is fickle. But fear is structural. It's not about cruelty, it's about perceived cost. When someone knows that crossing you, ignoring you, or disrespecting you carries no consequence, they will do all three. Not because they're evil, Because consequence is the only language the survival brain understands. You teach people how to treat you not by what you say, but by what you allow. And if you allow everything, you've taught them that you cost nothing, that losing you changes nothing, that your presence is optional. I've seen relationships where one person gave everything, time, energy, attention, forgiveness, and the other person, they gave the minimum, just enough to keep the supply line open. Why? Because the power structure had already been established. One person had scarcity, the other had abundance. And abundance doesn't negotiate with scarcity. It dictates terms. This applies to friendships, business, romance, family. Anywhere humans interact, power flows toward the one who can walk away, not the one who stays no matter what. Staying without limits is submission, and submission doesn't inspire fear. It inspires contempt. Look at nature. Predators don't chase prey that submits. They chase what runs. The act of running signals value, something worth pursuing. But roll over, show your belly, make yourself easy, and the predator loses interest. It's not sport anymore, it's cleanup. The same psychology governs human relationships. People pursue what retreats. They cling to what might leave. They panic when they realize they've been taking someone for granted and that person just stopped playing the game. That moment, when the chase reverses, is when fear enters. Not before, never before. This isn't about manipulation, it's about self-preservation. If you don't create scarcity in your own presence, someone else will create it for you by replacing you. You think being available makes you valuable. It doesn't. It makes you convenient. Convenience gets used, scarcity gets protected. The difference is survival. You either become someone people fear losing, or you become someone people forget they had. There's no middle ground. The brain doesn't work that way. It prioritizes threats and opportunities. If losing you isn't a threat, you're neither. Here's what most people miss. Scarcity isn't about playing games. It's about having an actual life that doesn't revolve around one person, one job, one source of validation. It's about building something internal that's more valuable than external approval. When you have that, scarcity becomes natural. You're not pretending to be busy. You are busy. You're not faking indifference. You're genuinely focused elsewhere. And that shift from performed scarcity to real scarcity is what changes the dynamic. Because people can sense the difference between strategy and truth. And truth is what makes them afraid. Control isn't taken, it's granted. And it's granted the moment someone realizes you don't need what they're offering. This is the paradox that destroys most people. They think wanting something badly enough will make them work harder for it. And they're right. But working harder doesn't mean winning. It means becoming predictable, transparent, easy to read. And the second someone can read you, they know exactly how much pressure to apply, how long to make you wait, how little they can give and still keep you hooked. You've handed them the manual. You've shown them the price. And that price drops every time you prove you'll pay anything. Need is a leash. The person holding it doesn't have to pull hard. They just have to know it's there. You'll pull yourself. You'll justify their behavior. You'll lower your standards. You'll convince yourself that waiting is patience, that tolerating disrespect is maturity, that maybe if you just try harder, they'll finally see your worth. But they already see it. They've calculated it down to the decimal. And the calculation says you're cheap. Not because you are, but because you've made yourself available at a discount. You've been running a clearance sale on your own value, and people bought in at the lowest price. Now flip it. Imagine you don't need them. Not as a tactic, as a fact. You've built a life that functions without their approval, their attention, their presence. You have other options, other focuses, other sources of meaning. What happens? Their power evaporates. They can't leverage what you don't need. They can't manipulate what you're willing to lose. And suddenly, without you doing anything aggressive, the dynamic shifts. They start wondering, starts asking questions, starts noticing your absence, because your absence now carries weight. It's no longer background noise. It's a gap they can feel. This is where most people break. They get a taste of that power and immediately weaponize it. They start playing games, disappearing on purpose, acting cold to provoke a reaction, and it works for about 2 weeks. Then it collapses. Why? Because it's performance, not reality. People can sense when you're pretending not to care. The energy is wrong. There's tension in the act. Real detachment has no tension. It's smooth, effortless. It doesn't announce itself, it just is. And that's what makes it terrifying, because there's nothing to argue with, nothing to negotiate. You're not angry. You're not hurt. You're just gone. Mentally, emotionally. And they can't manipulate what they can't locate. Stoics understood this thousands of years ago. Marcus Aurelius wrote about being indifferent to external outcomes, not because outcomes don't matter, but because tying your peace to things you can't control is suicide by installments. Every time you let someone else dictate your emotional state, you've given them a remote control to your nervous system. They press a button, you react. They withhold attention, you spiral. They give a little affection, you flood with relief. You've turned yourself into a puppet. And puppets don't control anything. They get controlled. The strings are invisible, but they're there. And the person holding them knows exactly how to make you dance. Real control starts when you cut the strings, when you build an internal structure so solid that external validation becomes optional. Not irrelevant, optional. You can enjoy it, appreciate it, but you don't collapse without it. That's the difference. Weak people need constant feeding. Strong people are self-sustaining, and self-sustaining people don't beg, chase, or explain. They exist, and their existence alone becomes the standard others measure themselves against. You stop asking, "Do they want me?" and start asking, "Do I want them?" That shift from external validation to internal evaluation is where power consolidates. I've seen people transform the moment they stopped needing. Not wanting, needing. Want is fine. Need is poison. The moment you don't need someone's approval to function, to feel whole, to justify your existence, you become dangerous. Not because you're cruel, because you're free. And free people can't be controlled, they can't be guilt-tripped, they can't be emotionally blackmailed. They'll walk away mid-conversation if the terms don't align. And that unpredictability, that willingness to lose, is what makes people hold on tighter. Because now they're the ones afraid. But fear only lasts as long as the distance feels real. Respect isn't negotiated, it's observed. People don't respect you because you ask for it, explain why you deserve it, or prove your worth through endless effort. They respect you because something in your behavior signals that disrespecting you has a cost. And that cost is rooted in one thing: emotional independence. When you don't need their validation, their approval, their emotional scraps, you become a closed system, self-contained. And closed systems can't be invaded. People sense this immediately, not consciously, but their nervous system registers it. You're not leaking desperation. You're not fishing for reassurance. You're not scanning their face for signs of approval. You're just there, solid, unmoved. And that stability forces respect without you saying a word. Emotionally dependent people radiate instability. They need constant feedback, constant confirmation, They apologize for existing. They over-explain. They check in obsessively. And every one of those behaviors broadcasts the same message. I don't trust my own value, so I need you to validate it for me. That's not connection. That's outsourcing your self-worth. And the second you outsource it, you've handed control to someone else. They can give it. They can take it away. They can dangle it just out of reach and watch you scramble. You've turned yourself into a beggar at their emotional doorstep. And beggars don't get respect. They get pity, or worse, contempt. Emotional independence does the opposite. It says, I'm fine whether you stay or leave, whether you approve or don't, whether you see my value or walk past it blind. And that certainty is magnetic, not because it's cold, because it's rare. Most people are so hungry for external validation that they'll tolerate anything to get it. They'll accept breadcrumbs. They'll rationalize bad behavior. They'll convince themselves that staying in something painful is noble. But you don't need the crumbs. You don't need the title. You don't need the relationship to work out to prove you're enough. You already know you're enough. And that knowing changes how people approach you. I'll give you a real example. Two people walk into a room. Both competent. Both intelligent. One is constantly looking around, checking reactions, adjusting their behavior based on the emotional temperature of others. The other is calm, centered, focused on their own internal compass. Who gets respect? The second one, every time. Not because they're better, because they don't need the room's permission to exist. They're not performing, they're not auditioning, they're just present. And presence rooted in self-trust is the most powerful form of dominance there is. It doesn't demand. It doesn't explain. It just is. And people either rise to meet it or disqualify themselves. Here's the psychology. Humans are wired to follow certainty. Uncertainty creates anxiety. When you're emotionally dependent, you radiate uncertainty. You're always second-guessing. Always adjusting, always seeking reassurance. And that makes people nervous, not because they dislike you, because your energy destabilizes theirs. But when you're emotionally independent, you radiate certainty. You know who you are. You know what you'll tolerate. You know your boundaries. And that certainty gives others permission to relax. They don't have to manage your emotions. They don't have to tiptoe. They don't have to perform. They can just exist around you. And that ease creates respect. Because respect is born from trust. And trust is born from consistency. Emotional independence also eliminates manipulation. You can't guilt-trip someone who doesn't need you. You can't gaslight someone who trusts their own perception. You can't love-bomb someone who isn't starving for affection. All the tactics that work on emotionally dependent people, silent treatment, hot and cold games, withholding affection, conditional approval, they bounce off emotional independence like bullets off steel. Not because you're defending, because there's nothing to defend. You're not invested in their version of you. You're invested in your own. And when someone realizes their usual tools don't work, they have two options: respect you or leave. Either way, you win. This doesn't mean you become cold. It means you become selective. You reserve your emotional energy for people who've earned access, not people who demand it, not people who guilt you into giving it, people who respect the boundary in the first place. And those people, they don't test you. They don't push. They don't play games. Because they recognize emotional independence as a signal of high value. And high-value people don't beg for space in your life. They earn it, or they don't get it at all. But earning it requires proving something most people never even attempt. Approval seeking is blood in the water. You don't have to announce it. People can sense it the moment you walk into a room, the way you laugh a little too hard at jokes that aren't funny. The way you agree with opinions you don't hold, the way you shrink yourself to fit into spaces that were never built for you. Every micro adjustment you make to be liked is a micro confession that you don't believe you're enough as you are. And once people detect that, the dynamic is set. You've just told them exactly how to control you. Give approval, you comply. Withhold approval, you scramble. It's Pavlovian, and it's pathetic. Here's what happens neurologically. When you seek approval, your brain releases dopamine every time you get a positive response. A nod, a smile, a compliment. And dopamine is addictive. Your brain starts associating other people's reactions with reward. So you chase it. You modify your behavior to trigger that hit again. You become a rat pressing a lever. And the person controlling the lever, they don't even have to think about it. They've trained you without effort. You've conditioned yourself. Every time you twist yourself into a shape that isn't yours just to earn a reaction, you're reinforcing the neural pathway that says, my value is determined externally. And once that belief hardens, you're done. You've locked yourself in a cage and handed someone else the key. Manipulators don't create approval seekers, they find them. And they exploit them with surgical precision. They learn your triggers fast. What makes you light up? What makes you doubt yourself? What makes you try harder? Then they ration approval like it's oxygen. Just enough to keep you hooked, never enough to make you secure. They compliment you in front of others, then criticize you in private. They build you up one day, tear you down the next. Not because they're confused, because inconsistency is the most effective control mechanism in human psychology. Predictable reward creates entitlement. Unpredictable reward creates obsession. And obsession makes you controllable. I've watched people destroy themselves chasing approval from someone who never intended to give it consistently. They work harder, sacrifice more, ignore red flags the size of billboards. Why? Because their identity is wrapped up in being chosen, being validated, being seen as worthy. And the person withholding that validation, they're not struggling with their feelings, they're enjoying the power. They've figured out that the less they give, the more you'll do. It's not personal, it's transactional. You've become a resource they mine for attention, effort, and compliance, and the moment you're empty, they'll move on. Because approval seekers are everywhere. You're replaceable, not because you lack value, because you've made yourself available at no cost. Stop looking for examples far away. Look at your last conversation. How many times did you check if they laughed at your joke? How many times did you rephrase something to sound smarter, funnier, more acceptable? How many times did you agree when you wanted to push back? Every single one of those moments was you asking permission to exist. And permission-based existence is slavery with good branding. You think you're being flexible, agreeable, easy to get along with. You're not. You're being weak. And weakness doesn't inspire loyalty. It inspires exploitation. People don't protect what they don't respect. And they don't respect what they can manipulate without effort. The antidote isn't arrogance. It's indifference to external validation. You stop performing. You stop shape-shifting. You stop monitoring reactions like a stock ticker. You say what you mean. You laugh when something's actually funny. You stay silent when you have nothing to say. You exist in your own frequency, and if people tune in, fine. If they don't, also fine. That shift, from seeking approval to assuming sufficiency, is what kills the manipulation cycle. Because there's nothing left to exploit. You're not waiting for them to validate you. You've already validated yourself. And self-validated people don't beg. They don't chase. They don't break themselves into digestible pieces for mass consumption. Here's the brutal part. Most people will hate this version of you. The one that doesn't bend. The one that doesn't need their approval to function. because you've taken away their power. They can't train you anymore, can't shape you, can't pull strings and watch you dance. And that loss of control makes them uncomfortable. So they'll call you cold, arrogant, difficult, and you'll smile, because those words are just another form of manipulation, an attempt to guilt you back into the cage, back into seeking their approval so they can feel powerful again. But you won't go back, because you've learned the only approval that matters is the one you give yourself. And that's the approval no one can take away. Replaceability is death, not physical death, something worse. The death of relevance. The moment someone realizes they can get the same thing from someone else. Your attention, your skills, your loyalty, your presence. You stop being a person. You become a placeholder, a temporary solution until something better walks through the door. And it will. Because people don't protect what's abundant. They protect what's scarce. Machiavelli understood this in the context of power. Princes who made themselves indispensable survived. Princes who could be swapped out got swapped out, usually with a blade. The mechanism hasn't changed. The stakes have just gotten quieter. Here's the law. Value is measured by cost of replacement, not effort, not loyalty, not how much you care, replacement cost. If losing you costs nothing, emotionally, practically, socially, then you're worth nothing in that system. Harsh? Yes. True? Absolutely. Look at your relationships, your job, your friendships. Where are you irreplaceable? Where have you built something so specific, so calibrated to your unique combination of skills and presence, that removing you would create a hole no one else could fill? If the answer is nowhere, you're in danger, because systems optimize, and you're not optimized. You're generic, interchangeable, a variable that can be swapped out without breaking the equation. Most people make themselves replaceable by being too available, too accommodating, too willing to be whatever someone needs in the moment. They think flexibility is a strength. It's not. It's camouflage for lack of identity. When you're everything to everyone, you're nothing to anyone. You're a mirror, and mirrors don't have value. They reflect value. People look into you, see what they want, then move on. They don't remember you. They remember the version of themselves they saw in you. And when they want a different reflection, they find a different mirror. You've built your entire identity around external need, and external need shifts constantly. You can't keep up, so you get left behind. Machiavelli wrote that a prince should be loved and feared, but if he must choose, fear is safer. Why? Because love is conditional. It requires constant feeding, constant performance, constant proof. But fear is structural. It's based on consequence, on the knowledge that losing access to you will cost something tangible. This doesn't mean you terrorize people. It means you build yourself into something that can't be replicated. A skill set no one else has, a perspective no one else offers, a standard no one else maintains. You become the original, and everything else becomes a knockoff. People can try to replace you. They will try, but they'll realize quickly that the substitute doesn't hit the same, doesn't solve the same problems, doesn't fill the same space. I'll give you a concrete example. Two people work the same job, same title, same pay. One does exactly what's asked, shows up on time, follows the script, checks boxes. The other anticipates problems before they surface, solves issues no one else noticed, brings insights that shift how the team thinks. When layoffs come, who survives? The irreplaceable one. Not because they worked harder, because they worked differently. They built value that couldn't be outsourced, automated, or handed to the next hire. They made themselves expensive to lose, and expensive things don't get thrown away. They get protected. This applies to every relationship, romantic, professional, social. If you want power, make yourself hard to replace, not through manipulation, through cultivation. Develop skills other people don't have. Build knowledge other people don't pursue. Maintain standards other people won't hold. Show up in ways other people can't replicate. And do it consistently. Not for applause, for structure. Because structure is what makes you irreplaceable. Anyone can be nice. Anyone can be available. Anyone can agree. But not anyone can deliver what only you can deliver. That specificity, that signature, is what creates fear of loss. And fear of loss is the foundation of respect. Here's the part most people avoid. Becoming irreplaceable requires saying no. A lot. You have to refuse requests that dilute your focus. Decline opportunities that don't align with your value. Walk away from people who treat you like an option. Because every yes to mediocrity is a no to excellence. Every hour you spend being replaceable is an hour you didn't spend becoming rare. And rare is what survives. Common gets discarded. Builds up in landfills. No one mourns it. No one notices it's gone. But rare gets remembered. Rare gets fought over. Rare gets protected. Not because people are kind, because people are strategic. And losing something rare is a miscalculation they can't afford. But rarity only matters if people know what happens when you're gone. Predictability is a trap you build with your own hands. Every time you respond the same way, show up at the same time, tolerate the same disrespect, you're writing a manual on how to control you. People read that manual without opening a book. They learn your patterns, your triggers, your breaking points, and once they know the code, they run the program. They know exactly how much they can push before you react, exactly how long they can ignore you before you reach out, exactly what words will make you apologize, comply, or break. You've become a vending machine. Insert the right behavior, get the expected response. And vending machines don't command respect. They dispense product. Uncertainty destroys that entire dynamic. When people can't predict you, they can't control you. They don't know if you'll answer, if you'll forgive, if you'll stay, if you'll care. That gap between action and reaction, that unknown variable, creates tension. And tension keeps people engaged, not because they love you more, because their brain hates unsolved problems. Uncertainty activates the same neural circuits as threat detection. The amygdala fires up. Cortisol spikes. They start paying attention, not out of affection, out of survival instinct. Because unpredictable elements are dangerous. And dangerous things must be monitored. You've gone from background noise to active threat. And active threats get resources, attention, caution, respect. Look at nature. Predators are predictable. They hunt, they eat, they rest. Prey can plan around that. But an unpredictable predator, one that hunts at random intervals, strikes without pattern, disappears without warning, that predator owns the territory. Every animal in the area adjusts their behavior around the possibility of encounter, not the certainty, the possibility. That's the power of uncertainty. It doesn't require constant action. It requires the belief that action could happen at any moment. And belief is cheaper than behavior. You don't have to do anything. You just have to make them think you might. And thinking consumes more energy than knowing ever will. Here's where most people fail. They confuse uncertainty with chaos. They start acting erratic, moody, inconsistent without structure. And that's not power. That's instability. Real uncertainty is controlled. It's strategic. You're not random. You're selective. You don't respond to every message because you've decided some don't deserve responses. You don't show up to every event because your time is allocated based on value, not obligation. You don't explain your decisions because explanations are for people who need permission. You've built an internal logic that others can't see. And what they can't see, they can't predict. That invisible framework is what creates the uncertainty. They're looking for the pattern, and there is one. They just don't have access to it. Machiavelli advised princes to be feared and unpredictable, not cruel, unpredictable. Because predictable leaders get assassinated. People plot around certainty. They know when you're weak, when you're distracted, when you'll forgive, when you'll punish. They build their rebellion during the gaps. But unpredictable leaders, you can't plot against someone whose next move is unknown. You can't exploit someone whose boundaries shift based on principles you can't decode. You're forced to stay in line. Not because you're scared of what they'll definitely do, because you're scared of what they might do. And might is more powerful than will. Will is a promise. Might is a threat. Threats linger. Promises expire. I've used this in negotiations. Never let them know your flaw. Never let them know your ceiling. Never let them know if you're bluffing. The moment they think they've figured you out, they'll test it. They'll push 1 inch past what they think your limit is. And if you fold, they've confirmed the map. They'll push again and again. But if they can't locate your limit, they stop pushing. Not because they're kind. Because pushing into the unknown is expensive. It risks the entire deal. So they stay cautious. They offer more than they planned. They respect terms they wouldn't have accepted from someone predictable. You didn't become more skilled, you became more uncertain. And uncertain is expensive to test. This applies to every interaction, romantic, professional, social. The moment someone can predict your response, they've neutralized your power. They'll stop trying, stop chasing, stop valuing. Because they've already mapped the territory, there's no mystery left, no risk, no cost. You've given them the cheat code to the game, and now they're playing on easy mode. But take that code away. Make yourself unreadable, unexplainable, inconsistent in ways that follow a logic only you understand. And suddenly they're back to hard mode. They have to earn every inch, guess every move. And people value what they have to work for. Not what's handed to them on a script they've memorized, but uncertainty only holds power if they believe you'll actually walk away. Being liked is fragile. It's built on preference, mood, comparison. Someone likes you today because you make them laugh. Tomorrow they meet someone funnier. Someone likes you because you're kind. Next week they find someone kinder who also has better stories. Like is a lottery ticket. It pays out based on variables you can't control. Trends shift, tastes change, new options appear. And the moment someone likes you less than they like the alternative, you're gone. No negotiation, no appeal process, just replacement. Because like doesn't create obligation, it creates preference, and preferences are disposable. Being needed is architecture. It's built on function, dependency, consequence. When someone needs you, they can't just swap you out because they're bored. They rely on you for something essential, something that costs them if you disappear. Maybe you're the only one who understands their system, the only one who handles a specific problem, the only one who provides a resource they can't access elsewhere. Need creates lock-in, and lock-in creates security, not the security of affection, the security of utility. You're not there because they enjoy you. You're there because removing you breaks something they can't afford to break. That's not love. That's leverage. And leverage lasts longer than feelings ever will. Here's the psychology. Emotions are volatile. They spike and crash based on neurochemistry, circumstance, external stimuli. Someone can love you in the morning and resent you by evening. Not because you changed, because their serotonin levels shifted, their day went poorly. They saw an ex. They got triggered by something unrelated. Emotional attachment is a hostage to brain chemistry. But need is logical. It's calculated. It survives mood swings because it's based on outcome, not feeling. You provide something. They require it. The transaction holds regardless of whether they're happy with you. And that cold, transactional bond is more stable than any emotional one. Because logic doesn't need maintenance. It just needs function. Most people waste years trying to be liked. They optimize for charm, agreeability, emotional availability. They think if they're nice enough, fun enough, supportive enough, people will keep them around. And it works until it doesn't. Until someone nicer shows up, someone more fun, someone who doesn't carry the baggage of familiarity. Then all that effort evaporates. Because like is binary. You either have it or you don't. And when you don't, there's no fallback, no safety net. You're just out. But if you've made yourself needed, if you've built infrastructure around your presence, losing you costs something. And people don't volunteer for costs. They avoid them, delay them, negotiate around them. You're no longer optional. You're embedded. I've seen this in business, family, relationships. The person everyone likes gets invited to parties. The person everyone needs gets consulted before decisions. One is decoration, the other is load-bearing. Decoration gets removed during renovations. Load-bearing stays because the structure collapses without it. You want to be load-bearing, not because it feels good, because it's irremovable. And irremovable is the closest thing to permanent in a world built on disposability. People tolerate what they need far longer than they tolerate what they merely enjoy. Enjoyment fades, need persists, and persistence is survival. This doesn't mean you become a tool. It means you become essential. You develop skills, insights, or access that others depend on. You solve problems they can't solve alone. You hold knowledge they don't have. You maintain standards they can't uphold without you. You're not trying to be liked. You're trying to be necessary. And necessity doesn't beg. It doesn't perform. It doesn't audition. It just exists. And its existence creates a dependency loop. The more they use you, the more they need you. The more they need you, the more they protect access to you. Not because they love you, because losing you disrupts the system. And systems resist disruption. Here's the brutal efficiency of this. You can be hated and still be needed. People will work with you, rely on you, keep you close, even if they don't like you. Because need overrides preference. A company keeps the difficult employee who's the only one who understands the legacy code. A family keeps the cold relative who controls the estate. A partner stays with someone they've fallen out of love with because that person handles everything they can't. It's not romantic, it's not warm, but it's stable. And stability built on need outlasts passion built on like. Every single time. But need without boundaries turns you into a servant. Boundaries aren't requests, they're declarations. You don't ask permission to have them. You don't negotiate their existence. You don't explain why they're necessary. You state them once, calmly, clearly, without emotion, and then you enforce them without discussion. The moment you defend a boundary, you've already weakened it. Because defense implies the other person has a vote. They don't. Boundaries aren't collaborative. They're unilateral. You've decided what you will and won't tolerate. And that decision isn't up for debate. The only variable is whether the other person will respect it or disqualify themselves. Either outcome is fine, because a boundary that bends isn't a boundary, it's a suggestion. And suggestions get ignored. Here's what most people get wrong. They think boundaries are walls built to keep others out. They're not. They're filters built to let the right things in. You're not rejecting people, you're screening for quality, for respect, for reciprocity. When you set a boundary and someone crosses it, they've told you everything you need to know, not about the boundary, about them. They've shown you they don't value your limits. They don't respect your autonomy. They believe their desires override your comfort. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a character reveal. And character doesn't change because you explained yourself better. It changes when consequences become unavoidable, or it doesn't change at all. The power of a boundary isn't in the statement, it's in the enforcement. Words are cheap. Anyone can say, "Don't do that." But what happens when they do it anyway? That's the test. That's where most people collapse. They set the boundary, the other person crosses it, and instead of following through, they renegotiate. They soften. They give second chances that turn into 15th chances. And with every exception, they're teaching the other person that boundaries are negotiable. That pressure works. That persistence pays off. You've turned your boundary into a challenge. And some people love challenges. They'll push harder, not because they don't understand, because they don't care, and you've shown them they don't have to. I've watched people destroy themselves maintaining relationships with people who cross boundaries like they're crossing state lines, casually, repeatedly, without consequence. And every time, the person with the boundary justifies it. They didn't mean it. They were going through something. Maybe I wasn't clear enough. No, you were clear. They just didn't respect it. And you didn't enforce it. So now you're living in a reality where your needs are optional and their convenience is mandatory. That's not a relationship. That's occupation. You're occupied territory. And occupied territory doesn't get sovereignty. It gets managed, controlled, dictated to, because you gave up the only weapon that mattered: consequence. Consequence is the enforcement mechanism. Without it, boundaries are performance art. You've drawn a line in the sand, but the tide comes in and you just draw another 3 feet back. Then another, until you're backed against a wall wondering how you got there. You got there by not walking away, by not removing access, by not making the cost of disrespect higher than the benefit. People will do whatever you allow, not whatever you ask them not to do. Whatever you allow. And if you allow everything, you'll get everything. Every manipulation, every violation. Every casual disregard for your stated limits. Because you've trained them to ignore you. You've made yourself the person whose no means convince me. And convincing you has become their hobby. Here's the silent weapon aspect. Enforced boundaries create power without aggression. You don't yell, you don't threaten, you don't explain. You just remove access. Someone crosses the line, you exit the conversation. They do it again. You exit the relationship. No drama, no lecture, no need to be understood. You've simply withdrawn your presence. And presence is the only currency that matters in human interaction. People can't manipulate what isn't there, can't negotiate with someone who's already gone, can't guilt trip someone who isn't listening. You've created a consequence that's silent but absolute, and absolute consequences reshape behavior faster than any argument ever will. This is where emotional independence intersects with boundaries. If you need the person, you can't enforce the boundary. You'll cave, you'll soften, you'll find reasons to tolerate what you said you wouldn't. But if you don't need them, if walking away costs you less than staying costs you, enforcement becomes automatic. You're not bluffing, you're not testing them. You're genuinely comfortable with their absence. And that comfort is what makes the boundary real. It's not a wall you're hoping they won't climb. It's a door they're choosing not to respect. And when they cross it, the door closes behind them. Permanently. No appeals, no retrials, just done. Boundaries also filter out people who were never going to respect you. They leave on their own. They'll call you rigid, controlling, cold. They'll tell you that real relationships require flexibility. And they're right. Just not about boundaries. Boundaries aren't the flexible part. Boundaries are the foundation. Everything else, tone, time, energy, affection, can be flexible. But the foundation stays fixed. And people who can't respect that foundation can't build anything stable on it. They're not trying to connect with you. They're trying to control you. And control requires you to keep moving your limits until there aren't any. That's the game. And the only way to win is to stop playing. But knowing when to enforce isn't the same as knowing when to disappear entirely. Distance isn't absence. It's recalibration. You're not disappearing to punish someone. You're stepping back to restore balance. Most relationships fall into patterns where one person gives more, cares more, initiates more, and the other person, they coast. They receive. They respond when convenient. The dynamic calcifies, and once it hardens, breaking it requires force. Not emotional force. Spatial force. You have to create a gap. Not because you're playing games, because proximity without respect breeds contempt, and contempt kills everything it touches. Distance resets the equation. It forces the other person to notice what they stopped valuing, to feel the absence of what they took for granted, to decide if closing that gap is worth the effort. And that decision, whether they chase or let you go, tells you everything. Here's the mechanism. Humans habituate to constant stimuli. You're always there, always available, always accommodating. You become wallpaper, background, expected. The brain stops processing you as valuable because value is measured by scarcity and effort. When something is always available, the brain deprioritizes it. Not consciously, neurologically. You've been downgraded from active attention to passive assumption. They assume you'll answer, assume you'll forgive, assume you'll stay. And assumptions don't require gratitude, or effort, or respect. You've trained them to expect you without earning you, and now they treat you accordingly. Distance breaks that training. Suddenly you're not there, not responding, not available, and the brain recalibrates. What was ignored becomes noticeable. What was assumed becomes uncertain. Strategic distance requires discipline. You can't check in, can't explain, can't soften the absence with reassurances. You have to let the gap breathe, let it stretch. Let them sit in the discomfort of not knowing. Most people break here. They panic. They feel guilty. They convince themselves that distance is cruelty. It's not. Cruelty is letting someone treat you poorly because you're afraid of making them uncomfortable. Distance is giving them the space to realize what they had. And if they don't realize it, if they're fine with the distance, then you've learned something crucial. They were never invested. They were just entertained. And entertainment doesn't chase. It finds a new channel. The people who chase are the ones who recognize cost. They've done the mental math. Losing you disrupts something they value. Maybe it's your attention, your support, your presence, your utility. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is they've calculated that having you is better than not having you. And that calculation makes them act. They reach out. They adjust their behavior. They start putting in effort they didn't put in before. Not because they've had a moral awakening, because the incentive structure changed. When you were always there, effort was optional. Now that you're gone, effort is required. And required effort reveals who's willing to pay the cost. Most people aren't. And that's the filter. That's how you separate people who value you from people who used you. I've seen this play out 1,000 times. Someone creates distance, and the other person suddenly becomes attentive. Suddenly remembers to text back. suddenly has time for plans they were too busy for last month. Why? Because scarcity activated. The brain registered loss, and loss aversion kicked in. They're not chasing because they love you more. They're chasing because they're wired to protect resources that might disappear. It's not romantic, it's biological, but it works. And if you're strategic, you use it. Not to manipulate, to test, to see if reciprocity exists, if respect can be restored, if the relationship has a foundation, or if it was always built on your willingness to overfunction while they underfunctioned. Here's the brutal part. Some people won't chase. They'll let you walk. And that will hurt. Not because you weren't enough, because they were never capable of valuing what you offered. Their nervous system is wired differently. They're avoidant, dismissive, or so self-focused that other people barely register as real. Distance doesn't trigger fear in them. It triggers relief. And when that happens, you have to accept the data. You are holding on to someone who was already gone. The distance just made it visible. And visibility, no matter how painful, is better than delusion. You can't fix what you can't see. And you can't build with someone who isn't carrying their half of the weight. Strategic distance also protects your energy. Every relationship has a cost: emotional, mental, temporal. When you're overfunctioning, always initiating, always soothing, always accommodating, the cost outweighs the return. You're operating at a deficit. Distance lets you reallocate that energy, redirect it toward people who reciprocate, toward projects that matter, toward yourself. And when you're no longer bleeding energy into a one-sided dynamic, you become stronger, clearer, more attractive to people who are actually capable of meeting you where you are. You stop being the person people take from. You become the person people earn access to. And access isn't granted by proximity, it's granted by proof. The final layer. Distance doesn't mean you're gone forever. It means you're gone until the terms change, until respect returns, until reciprocity becomes real, until someone demonstrates through action, not words, that they understand what they lost. And if they never demonstrate that, if the distance becomes permanent, then you've saved yourself years. Years of hoping someone would see you. Years of tolerating less than you deserve. Years of building a relationship on your effort alone. Distance gave you an answer, and the answer, whether they chased or didn't, set you free. But freedom only holds value if you know what you're free from. You've been given the map. Whether you use it or ignore it changes nothing for me. It changes everything for you. Most people will watch this, nod, and go right back to begging, back to chasing approval, back to making themselves small so others feel big. They'll rationalize it, call it love, call it loyalty, call it being a good person, and they'll stay weak, stay disposable, stay confused about why no one fears losing them. Because they never made anyone afraid. They made themselves available. And available is another word for replaceable. You're not most people, or you wouldn't have watched this far. You felt it. The exhaustion of being taken for granted. The rage of giving everything and getting scraps. The clarity that comes when you finally realize kindness without boundaries is just self-destruction with good branding. You've seen the pattern. Now you have the framework, the psychology, the strategy. What you do with it defines what happens next, but this is only half the system. You've learned how to make them fear losing you. Now you need to learn how to operate in silence, while they self-destruct, trying to figure you out. Go watch 10 ruthless laws geniuses follow to rule in silence. It's the blueprint for moving through the world untouchable, for building power so quietly no one sees it coming until it's already too late. You don't announce dominance, you embody it. And that video will show you exactly how. You're not learning this to play games. You're learning it to survive in a world that punishes the weak and rewards the strategic. Watch it. Now, write this in the comments. I walk away when respect dies. That's your declaration, your reminder, your new default setting. Power protects those who stop begging for it.